Let me start by saying that I like to make those videos for you guys, and I enjoy working on them. I enjoy reading and responding to comments and even little arguments we get into from time to time. But I'm only human, and I make mistakes too. Whether I misremember something from 20 or 30 years ago, or miss an important detail in my research, or even misspeak, it's all on me. But I'm no better than anyone else, and I am allowed mistakes same as everyone else is. So, please forgive me if something is not as thorough as you'd like, or if I'm not 100% accurate. Thanks for understanding, and let's check today's games out. Island Peril is like my first relationship was, so mediocre at best. But unlike that relationship, it's also a first-person shooter. It tells its story via incredibly cheesy full-motion video sequences, and as much as the story bits are so bad that they actually end up being ironically good, the gameplay never really reaches any noticeable heights. In fact, mediocre may be a bit too big of a word for it. Both the game and my failed late romance. In Island Peril, you're Dick. Dick Danger. Awesome name for an adult movie star, I must add, and I wonder if you thought that I will stop at Dick. You're a former police officer who suddenly received a call from a man only known as the Evil Boss, and who's seemingly a criminal and Dick's nemesis. As it turns out, he kidnapped Dick's girlfriend, Samantha Smith, also known as Sweet Cheeks. Another amazing name for a former 1970s adult actress. The Evil Boss took Sweet Cheeks and keeps her hostage on Lorgina Island. So now, you must get to the island, fight your way through Evil Boss's goons and save her, preferably in that particular order. You start with a basic pistol, but soon enough you'll find other better weapons like a shotgun, machine gun or a flamethrower to name a few. You can also collect raincoat and a gas mask that serve as your armor, and ammo and keys. These last open the doors, which are plenty of, and it should come as no surprise as you're human living in a world and no doubt mastered use of this already. But there are also numerous hidden areas behind secret passages in walls which need no keys, just your good old wall hugging. As you plow through the enemy scum, leaving none of them standing, you also get to collect coins, which then can be spent in vending machines to purchase some of the power-ups. Everything short of those terribly acted FMVs in Island Peril kinda sucks. The graphics and sounds are disappointing for 1995, the 3D engine is as holes-filled as the Swiss cheese, and overall, the game's such a mess you'll be hard-pressed to carry on playing. I mean, you can walk through villains as if they weren't there, the weapons look awful and feel unconvincing, and the enemies' dying animations, well, they're definitely something. And worst of all, Island Peril is hella easy. I mean, I don't like Souls-like games for plethora of reasons, but I don't particularly enjoy these that offer no challenge either. The only reason I can think of that could anyone have to want to play it to the end is to watch all the FMV sequences, cause it's definitely not because of the gameplay loop. So yeah. I'm sorry about that guys, but the second game today is also not a great one. What a way to start a video, right? I should really mix them in, hide them between the better titles, but why do that? They have to be covered one way or another. Anyway, Inordinate Desire is a sci-fi space-based turn-based strategy that places you in the shoes of a commander of a space fleet who aims to conquer various alien planets. The gimmick here is that you're planning a grand strategy from a spaceship carrier in orbit and then fly down to planet surface to personally take control of tactical offensive. Each round, before issuing combat orders, you can buy new units, send pilots on patrols or repair your ships. When that's done, you get down to the planet surface to lead the attacks. And you can direct your units either to move or attack. Yes, either. They can't do both for whatever the reason. Additionally, there's no indicators of any kind, be it numerical, bar-based or visual, on enemy units' condition, so you have to attack them blindly, hoping that you did enough damage that with each attempt you're getting closer to destroying them. It's a not at the very least mechanic, and it gets tiresome fast. I mean, I don't need to know the exact number of HP they have, but some kind of a smoke or sparks at the very least would tell me if the attacks were successful at all, more than nothing does. Cause it does just that. Nothing. Inordinate Desire is a purely tactical strategy with no buildings to erect that will enable production of new units or new technologies to discover. Nothing. Well, you can build depots and radar installations, but that's pretty much it. First are used to repair damaged units, second to start airstrikes. Each round represents one day and each follow the very same loop I just told you about. Oh, and from time to time your space carrier gets attacked and you have to defend it in an arcade shooter section similar to Wing Commander or Frontier. Inordinate Desire's presentation is not great, to put it mildly. It looks as if some of the artists from Battle Isle were hired to work on its graphics and gave up mid-development, moving to something else and leaving the game in an unfinished state. It's hardly the graphics that make or break the game, but when the game itself is average at best, you'd want at least the presentation to make up for it. Not the case here though. Now, finally a game for me. International Sports Challenge is a multi-event sports game for up to 4 players. And as much as I am usually not into sports, these compilation/competition games I love. Well, I have no one to play it with now, but when I did, they were a hell of a fun. ISC features 6 different sports spread over 21 separate events. You can mix the individual events however you'd like, or play them all in sequence along with the 26-mile marathon. And it's done in a very unique and fun way, I must add. Cause for once, it's not a marathon that you actually have to waggle your joystick to like a drag fiend or smash your keyboard to thousands of pieces. Nope, not the case here. You plan a strategy for it, adjusting your runner's effort and rhythm, and setting up drinks and refreshment stops. When that's done, you enter the second event, which is actually interactive, and the runner keeps doing his thing, pacing in the background, following the strategy you planned for him. Events and marathon setup alternate so that you can constantly observe the runner's progress and assess his performance, and then adjust his approach if needed. Other than the marathon, the included events are in no particular order: 1 and 2 meter springboard diving, 5 meter platform and diving medley competition, show jumping in 4 difficulty levels, 50, 100 and 200 meters swimming races using breaststroke, butterfly and freestyle, 1000 and 2000 meters spring cycling and pursuit racing, and finally skeet, trap, bore and target shooting. They may seem very samey, but many of these events actually feel quite different from one another and should provide you and whomever you'll decide to beat at the game hours of fun. Most sports are presented in 2D pixel graphics, but some use a mixture of flat-shaded 3D and sprites. All, however, look nice and run smoothly. If you have someone there with you, it's probably the most fun multiplayer game out of this whole video. Inindo Way of the Ninja is a top-down ninja team JRPG with some superficial strategy overtones. It takes place in 1581 in Japan, good year for ninjas, not so much for Japan, as the evil warlock Nobunaga strives to conquer the whole country but whatever means necessary. There's only one potential opponent that he fears, and it's the Iga Ninja clan that you happen to be a new apprentice of. So he surprise attacks the clan with an overwhelming force and mercilessly slays all of them. Well, we'd had no game if that was it, right? So you happen to be the only survivor. Why? Because you weren't there when they attacked. You've been sent to a nearby village to catch Pokemon and whatnot, or warn them of a possibility of a similar raid on them. Now, clearly it was not a possibility anymore, but a cold-ass fact, and it was your ninja village that was decimated first. What's worse, you didn't manage to warn anyone, as the other village was already destroyed when you arrived. So, you're the last one alive. The only one to avenge both villages and make Nobunaga pay for his crimes. Since you're just a newbie Pokemon trainer, however, excuse me, I meant ninja, you'll need to not only hide from and fight of Nobunaga's men and bounty hunters, but also recruit skilled fighters for your soon to be the best in the world fighting party. Some would join you to fight for good, others for monetary reasons. Important thing is, they're there to help. All of them have different classes and skill sets, and only the right party composition will let you have a chance at success. So, you'll travel around the country visiting towns, conquering dungeons and getting better and better to prepare for the final confrontation. More or less from midpoint in the game, you'll be able to talk to feudal rulers of various castles to try to convince them to join your forces and your struggle to work together against Nobunaga. Some of these rulers will require you to perform certain tasks for them, such as spying, and it goes without saying that it's in your best interest to do so. The battles are turn-based and take place on a top-down view battlefield, allowing you to move your units on it and taking place into consideration during combat. Inindo may not be the best JRPG out there, but it's definitely worth a look. If you manage to find it in any language that you would understand, that is. I never did, so I've never played it. And all I just told you is what I found about it online. Maybe short of that Pokemon bit. That's just history, everyone knows that. Interpose is a sci-fi horizontally scrolling shooter, and it features pretty unusual plot. I know, we shouldn't care much for the story in a shooter, because, well, it's a shooter, but it's a good one, trust me. Short one, but good one. So you're these anthropomorphic links, so-called overlinks, Uberlinks if you will. And on one of those seemingly boring ass days, your planet has been suddenly invaded by an unusual, aggressive and ugly-looking race of, well, humans. Yep, for once we're the bad guys. So, you're playing as a peaceful by design species that's living in complete harmony with nature, and suddenly have to defend yourself from technologically advanced and destroying all environments in their way humans. And if you think about it, it checks out. That's precisely what we do. So you jump in your fighter and head off to defend your beautiful planet. Interpose is built out of 23 action-packed levels spread over a few thematically different areas, and we'll see you fighting hundreds upon hundreds of various human crafts. Some of the defeated enemies leave coins behind, and you gotta collect those to spend in the in-game shop to upgrade your fighter's shields and acceleration, to purchase better weapons and bombs, or upgrade your current ones. The variety is definitely there. Enemies also come in different shapes and forms, mixing classical copters with very alien-like looking flying saucers, which would contribute to the theory that all alien sightings reported were really of our own making. But I digress. Graphics are extra smooth, and I really mean it. They're so smooth in fact that at times they feel a bit floaty. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining that the game is too smooth, but it's better than I would have expected a virtually unknown game to be. So I'm feeling really weirded out about it. Sounds are rather decent as well. Overall, Interpose feels like a game that should be more popular and not a feature of a dusty corner of someone's attic. So why wasn't it? Well, hard to tell. As far as I know, it was distributed on a cover disc to one of the Swedish gaming mags, so this could be a factor seriously limiting its spread. But whether it released in any other way, it's hard to tell. If any of you know though, make sure to share it with us in the comments below. In the end, while Interpose is far from the best in the genre, classic or modern at the time, it's a decent little shooter that is worth checking out. Island Hopper is a rather light sharer, vertically scrolling shoot-em-up. As the title suggests, you're flying over a series of islands, fighting off hordes of land, water and air-based enemies in a very generic-feeling shooter. It's so generic in fact that I can't tell for the life of me when exactly it is set. It feels World War II-ish, but don't quote me on that. I've done no research on this, it's pure guesswork. Everything about Island Hopper emanates very strong budget vibes, and that's probably why it was distributed as a shareware title. The graphics, while very clean, with sprites easily distinguishable from the backgrounds, are rather plain feeling, and lack of any special effects or lush scenery serves a very easy to track action. And you know what? It's perhaps for the best, as the action is fast and frantic and will keep you on the edge of your seat. Mouse controls, while not an everyday choice for a shooter, actually work pretty well in this one, provided you have a decent mouse. Overall, Island Hopper feels like a fun little palette cleaner between other bigger and better games. It's not bad, not what I'm saying here at all, it's just not something you'll plan your whole afternoon around. As in most shooters, you get to pick up power-ups, increasing your power considerably from fallen enemies, and every 30,000 points you get an extra life. There are continues in the game in case you die prematurely, but they reset your score, so if you're going for the high score run, it's not something you'll be using often. To summarize, Island Hopper is a cool little shooter that could be better, but it also could be much worse. And for what it is, it's pretty fun, and if you like arcade shoot-em-ups, you'll definitely enjoy this one. Joyous Rebel is a top-down turn-based fantasy role-playing. The inspiration with late Ultima games is more than prominent in this one. Story, however, is a reworked and expanded version of one coming from an earlier smaller game, Joyous Rebel of Jive Culture, which I've never even heard of, but here you go, it's the source material. Story-wise, you play as a guardian of the King of Light sent away to foreign kingdoms in a mission of peace. When away, you're suddenly struck with an overwhelming feeling of impending doom, comparable to one I get going through my day job's front door every single morning. It's terrible. The king, while still in the kingdom and miles away, shares the grim feeling, as if you were some kind of deranged magical twins communicating subconsciously at the distance. So, you break away from your mission and hurry back feeling that the just and good ruler may be in dire danger. While traveling on sea, sudden enormous storm slows you down considerably, and then you're nearly killed by a lightning. When you wake up, you realize that you're in a fisherman's cabin in which you've been recovering after he rescued you. Wasting no more time, you head off to the castle to save the king. And this is where your adventure begins. And it's an ugly, crude and graphically disappointing for 1996 title. But I didn't say that it's not fun. And if you're into RPGs, it may very well prove to be something you'll want to experience. Perhaps Joyous Rebel is not especially creative and it doesn't stray far from fantasy cliches of yesteryear, but what it does pretty darn well. You're a lone hero on a huge and dangerous quest, and you're the only one who can save the kingdom from evil, the likes of which the land has never faced before. The game gives you just 4 different actions that you can take while playing, so switching between movement and combat modes, firing a long-range weapon, action, which is context-based and may very well mean opening doors, picking locks or climbing stairs to name a few, and finally using item out of 24 slots strong inventory. Other than that, it's you against the evil and a whole world waiting to be saved. Whether you decide to do so is something I leave to you, but if you're a gamer that requires a certain level of presentation, even from those older games, Joyous Rebel may be a one to skip. If you don't mind it being basic, there's some cheeky dialogues and a decent quest to follow here. Oh, and half of the sound effects seem to be made by the programmer beatboxing into the mic. It's hilarious. Another one of those incredibly easy to pronounce Korean games, Jisaeneum Dal, which probably sounds nothing like it, is a side-view action platformer with a heavy emphasis on action, and tells a tale as old as the time itself. You're a peasant boy who happens to be in love with a beautiful girl, and that girl loves you too. So, theoretically all should be fine and dandy and you should live together in idle peace, happiness and harmony. But as it turns out, an evil noble kidnapped your girl and aims to marry her, whether she wants to or not. These were not the times and place, after all, where a woman could just say no. But there were definitely the times when a kind-hearted, young and full of love boy could move mountains to save his beloved. And since the nobleman in question is rather wealthy, he's throwing army worth of henchmen at you to stop you in your tracks and prevent true love from flourishing. Now, if that's not an underdog story, then I don't know what is. Still, even if you're alone, you're not defenseless. You can attack and block with your stick, and that block will be hella useful, so learn to time it well. And you can also throw sickles and use various magical spells. But your biggest asset and help in all of this is definitely you. You playing as a boy in love, and you never fail. At least since we've known each other. I've really no clue how you did before. As you can see, the graphics are darn good, full of detailed and smoothly animated sprites drawn in a very manga/anime-like style. Sounds I couldn't record, so sorry for that. I should really look into it, but whatever, it is what it is. So, it should be a hit. Yes, it should. It follows as rainbow-colored as I made it out to be. You see, while the idea is solid, the presentation is stellar and gameplay rather fun, Jisaeneum Dal, or whatever the title really is rather buggy. And I'm being very kind to it by saying rather. It's overflowing with roaches of bad design. There seems to be some kind of an automatic invincibility exploit triggering after your character is hit in specific circumstances if you're playing a game at the default speed, which fortunately can be changed in the settings, but you have to figure out which speed option to pick and where it is, because it's in Korean. And since the exploit doesn't always trigger at first hit or the same spot, you may end up wasting a lot of time trying to figure it all out. Then there are the cutscenes, which may or may not trigger at times, and you never know why, and when they don't, the game just sorta stops there, preventing any further progress. And these are just the most prominent of the bugs. So if you're patient, by all means, go ahead and play the game, it's actually pretty fun. But if you like most of us and game-breaking bugs annoy you beyond belief, then avoid it like I avoid my boss's wife. So doing everything, anything in my power to stay away from her, as every time we're in the same room, I can literally sense how the average IQ there is dropping dramatically. Alai, which in the language of Basque Country, a border part between France and Spain, means more or less joyful play, and is a very unusual sports game. Now, full disclosure here, I've never heard of the sport before today, nor played the game, so keep that in mind. It's a sport that's popular in Spain, some of the past colonial Spanish-speaking countries, and to a certain degree parts of South US. It's really difficult to describe for someone who've never played it, but my understanding of it is that it's a little bit like racquetball, and it involves throwing a ball on a three-sided court and catching it using a special basket called cesta. In reality, it's supposed to be very fast, very reflex and reactions reliant title. And while it's not terrible, it's not as fast in the video game format. It is played between two teams, each composed out of two players. The ball is sent into the front wall, from which it rebounds and has to be captured by one of the players on the opposite team and sent back at the wall again. Scoring seems to be similar but not identical to the table tennis, and if you've played it or know more of it, game or real life, please share it with us in the comments below how it really plays like. Graphics, while not bad, are nothing special. They feel very simple, very utilitarian, but they work rather well from what I've seen on the video, never allowing the ball to disappear in the background. And the action, while a bit odd feeling to me, seems like something I might actually enjoy if I learned how to play it. Whether you will, and in the game format, I think that in this particular case you have to make up your own mind about it. After so many titles so difficult to pronounce, Jammit feels very refreshing. It's a pretty well made and playing arcade street basketball game, and truth be told, it seems to translate the sport to the computer screen near perfectly. For one, the game is one-on-one only and it don't discriminate, so both genders can compete on equal grounds. Then there are no complex rules to keep track of, no referee, and all the jostling, pushing and tripping the opponent on your way to the basket is not only possible, but often necessary if you don't want to be left in the dust score-wise. There are 6 different variants of one-on-one basketball in Jammit, and they capture the atmosphere of the sport better than most other games do to this very day. There are 3 distinctive characters to choose from, each having their own style of play, strengths and weaknesses. You start the game with $300 and you can bet on games. It may feel like an unnecessary addition, but it not only adds flavor, but also bankrupting your opponent can help you move to the next round. So it's actually a working in-game mechanic, Another interesting feature of Jammit is the so-called slam cam, which zooms in the heat of the moment to show off your awesome dunks. Or terrible failures, cause that's as feasible, right? Graphics-wise, Jammit is excellent. The digitized characters, while still lacking depth, move smoothly around the court and perform all their moves as you would imagine them to. The accompanying trash talk is not only funny, but also witty and well-fitting to the street setting. In short, if you like basketball or just multiplayer sports titles to compete against someone in, Jammit is definitely one worth a look. As at what it aims to, it definitely delivers. Fun episode this one. Some great games, some real stinkers, healthy mix really. All interesting in one way or another. What do you think of them though? Did you find any interesting in particular? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. Smash them if you have to, it helps more than you could ever know. Also, I would like to thank you and all my amazing Patreon and YouTube members for helping this channel keep going. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank all the wonderful folks who record and upload playthroughs, let's plays and other retro-centric videos here on YouTube, because they help to preserve the games that would have otherwise belonged forgotten. So thank you.